You ever get that feeling that you're being watched? Maybe someone's following you slightly too closely in the street. Is that person taking a photo of a building or of me? Maybe you thought of these things before and thought maybe a private investigator is tailing you. Well, today a private investigator will answer some secrets that you've always wondered about. You'll hear the amazing techniques they use to find out information on anyone, and also how to trail anyone without them knowing. I'm Charlie, and today we're going to look at private investigators answer questions you've always wanted to know. But before we get spied on, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too? Coming up first, we have how to trail anyone. We've all seen private detective movies where they have to trail their subject. Now, most of the time, this is not on foot, but instead in a vehicle. In the movies, the detective simply drives right behind the person they're following. But according to a real-life PI, this is very unrealistic. After all, don't you think the person would wonder, why is that car following me? One investigator said the way they do it is they actually use two different drivers driving two different cars. That way, the person they're following isn't seeing the same car behind them all the time. But PIs also have some great techniques for trailing people on foot. They say if you're watching someone somewhere, don't just look straight at them. Instead, face a totally different direction and look using the corner of your eye. Many private investigators will also go through many disguises when they're trailing someone on foot. For example, if they're trailing someone on the subway, they may wear a jacket and a hat. But as the person gets off and the detective needs to follow them, they'll ditch their jacket and hat. They may keep a baseball cap in their sleeve or a different item of clothing to make it seem like they're a new person. Another tip they say is to dress very boring. If you stand out, then you have no chances, so make sure you wear a neutral color like black, gray, or dark brown. Next up is dumpster diving. You may think of private investigators being in sleek offices and cruising around in dark vehicles. But the job really ain't all that glamorous. In fact, one of the favorite habitats of a PI is in a dumpster. A wealth of information about people can actually be found in the trash. If a PI is investigating you, they may go through your trash. Maybe you binned a very important letter or a receipt from a shop. Maybe it was a bank statement or a letter from a secret lover. All of this stuff can be very useful to a PI, and sometimes they won't even go to your trash. Instead, they may go to the trash of your friend, your lawyer, your neighbor, or your doctor. Sometimes, going through trash can even uncover secrets about people. For example, maybe they see some illegal paraphernalia in the trash and know that you're a bad guy doing illegal things. Next up is location. A lot of the time, private detectives are hired to locate people, but they often have to do this with barely any information. But using a few handy tips, private investigators can locate absolutely anyone. They only need to know two things: a name and a date of birth, and if possible, a social security number. Using this stuff, they'll be able to use private databases of official addresses where people live. You actually have to be a licensed PI to get these databases, and not any old random Joe off the street can access them. You also have to pass many tests and know relevant privacy laws. But some PIs apparently use these databases for less than legal reasons. After all, sometimes PIs have to break some laws to make some money. Next up is Fakebook. Hey look, a new friend request. Oh, and it's from a pretty girl. That's probably been the thought process of many people who have been spied on by a PI. That's because one of the first things a PI will do when investigating you is make a Facebook account. They will usually create a fake Facebook account and then add you to check you out. After all, nothing beats intel than getting it straight from the source. People put everything about themselves on Facebook. Pictures of their family, their friends, their home, their hometown, the school they go to, the job they work at, their likes, their interests. Pretty much everything you could need to know about someone is on their Facebook page. And one PI named Skylar Crowley said many PIs have up to 100 different fake accounts. If they're investigating a man, they may choose a very pretty woman as the picture. And if they're investigating a woman, they may choose a hunky man. Whatever gets them in, they'll do it. And they say that their fake accounts are usually much more popular than them. After all, being a private investigator is a very lonely business. Next up is bottle peeing. Yeah, this is another one of those less glamorous parts of the job. A big part of a PI's job is waiting. Whenever you're doing surveillance work, you need to learn how to play the waiting game. Oftentimes, you'll need to be staring right at one thing. You can't be texting, eating, or relaxing. You need to be focused 24/7. And sometimes this means bathroom breaks are not possible. That's why in every PI's car you'll find a stash of plastic bottles. And if you see any yellow liquid inside them, do not drink them, as they have to sometimes pee in bottles. Sometimes they will do a 12-hour surveillance shift, meaning they can't move at all. One PI says if they really have to go number one, then they use a plastic water bottle. But when it comes to number twos, he says he always holds it. Thank goodness for that. Next up is informants. Who can you really trust in your life? Can you honestly say you trust every one of your family members, friends, co-workers? Most people can't, and that's because some people are not very trustworthy at all. PIs know this, and that's why if they investigate you, they'll instantly look for an informant. One PI even admitted that once he got a landlord as an informant. He was able to convince the landlord to open up the apartment of the person he was spying on. But informants can be anyone connected to the person they're spying on. This may be someone they actually don't like a co-worker who really annoys them. Sometimes it's even a close family member or friend. And sometimes PIs will pay for informants' information. So if you think you may be being spied on by a PI, then be sure to keep your circle small and trustworthy. Next up is catfished. While in the days of Sherlock Holmes, PIs would be investigating massive crimes, sometimes it's small things PIs look into. We've all seen the TV show CATFISHED. It's where people meet someone they like online who turns out to be someone totally different. Well, apparently the boom in online dating has been a big boost for private investigators. A lot of the time, people have suspicions about the people they're talking to online. They wonder if that special someone on Match.com is the real deal. So that's why they'll often contact private investigators to check if they're the real person or not. One PI said they found out that someone was claiming they owned businesses and properties they really didn't own. And actually, they lived at home with their mom. Nothing wrong with that, but you really shouldn't lie about it on a dating profile. And one time, a PI found out that someone who said they were 20 on their profile page was actually a 67-year-old woman. Okay, I understand saying you're a couple years younger, but come on, that is ridiculous. So if you think you're getting scammed by your online love, then maybe hire a PI. Next up is social media. In the olden days, PIs had to be out and about spying 24/7. But nowadays, a lot of private investigator work can be done from behind a computer screen. As I mentioned before, PIs have a very specific database that only licensed investigators have access to. But ask any private investigator and they'll tell you their favorite database is social media. It's a goldmine of info as people document their entire lives online. Once, a PI was hired by an insurance company to investigate an injured woman. But the injured woman who'd claimed lots of money was actually posting photos of herself dancing and exercising. Also, one person who said they couldn't pay their child support because they were broke were seen online with a very flashy vehicle. It turns out they'd been lying so they didn't have to pay up, but instead they were splurging on themselves. So guys, if you have something to hide, then be very careful about posting it on Instagram. You never know who could be snooping. And finally on the list, we have Don't Call Us That. You may think that being a private investigator sounds like a cool job title to have. But did you know that most PIs don't like to be called private investigators? Instead, they prefer to be called a legal investigator. This helps them ward off any corny stereotypes from movies and TV shows. They don't like to be seen as shady characters or people snooping around in dark overcoats and sunglasses with a fake nose. One PI said people do find that tag very interesting, but he shies away from it. He says that him and most other private investigators operate legally and ethically and are very proud of the work they do. So if you encounter a private investigator, do not call them a private investigator. Otherwise, you never know, you may look out of your window and see them digging through your trash at 3 AM. But now it's time to make your opinion heard. Vote in the poll in the top right corner and let me know, do you think you've ever been spied on by a private investigator? If you want some more amazing videos, then check out my second channel. There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.